Today is 28th September. It's Sunday. I'm Charlie Garrett, and this is a CG Prophecy Report. Do Chihuahuas speak with a Mexican accent? That and a lot of other things to go over on today's report. Okay, well, we got a few things to announce here. The first is that it is the 28th of September, which means that exactly 2 days ago, what happened? We had 1 year anniversary of Hurricane Helene. So if you survived that one, and I'm assuming that you're here, you did, you remember that. I mean, in our house, we were flooded right up about this deep. I mean, it just came in. I remember it's coming up quick, and I thought, I wonder if it's getting into the house yet. I opened the garage door, the kitchen door that goes out to the garage, and I literally couldn't shut it. My whole body, I had to push against it. The gas cans were coming in the house. The whole house smelled like gas all night long. We're like, man, we hope nothing goes zzz, because, you know, and everything did. Everything stopped, all the electric stuff. But, I mean, it literally all night stank just like gas because those things are floating around and they're leaking all over. And that was 1 year and 2 days ago, and then on the 10th of October, guess what? Hurricane Milton. And we were the eye of the storm. It literally went right over us and inland. So it was 15 days of misery. And it's been a long year since, but that reminds me that I have a lot of people to thank because there were people that reached out from all around the world. Can we help in any way? There were people that drove down from other states, some very far away. And Jose, our missionary, he got home from Nebraska or something. He arrived at home. He sat down with his wife and he said, okay, all is good. He was scrolling through and it says Sarasota was hit. He said he got in the car and drove right over here. He never stopped. He drove straight from Texas after driving and being up for like 18 hours to get and help out. Other people came down. They helped rebuild our roof and all these other things. So thank you for that. Everybody so many gracious people that got us through that. We also have some visitors here today. Steve and Mary Ann. I met them yesterday. Tom is down from Ohio, Tom and Nancy. And we went out to Lido Key to the Old Salty Dog, which is a really nice location. And we all had lunch. And here they are. They showed up anyway for church today. So welcome to both of you. And guess what? I mean, this is like a bonus on top of a bonus. It's Mary Ann's birthday today. So happy birthday to you. She's hiding. Good to meet you both and happy birthday. And then one more thing about today, which is like, you know, super. 28th September, the last day that I took off. I've worked at least 8 and usually between 10 and 16 hours a day, every day since 28th September of 2020. So now I've gone 5 years without a day off and I'm loving it. One of these days I'm just going to keel over and the Lord will have gotten everything out of me he can get. So that's my goal, is to just no days off until I just keel over somewhere. 28th September. No, it's got to happen to all of us anyway. I mean, you never know. So I try to warn you, Bible class, you never know when your day's coming. Okay, and you know, my last day off was in Columbus, Ohio with Chuck and Bill, a couple guys that come here and visit the church quite often. And they asked me to come up, and I'm like, I don't want to go anywhere. I like being in Sarasota. I don't like going anywhere. Come on, we're going to go to the Art Museum and the Creation Museum and the Air Force Museum. And I'm like, I'm coming. So I took 3 days off, and now I'm back here, and I never want another vacation. Ever. Okay, got some news from Israel. From Zero Hedge, explosive-laden robots, and this is really cool, unless you're under one of them, or above one of them, I guess. Explosive-laden robots pour into Gaza City. More devastating than airstrikes. If you've seen the airstrikes from Israel, they are pinpoint. They can literally hit the bottom of a building and collapse it in on its own space without hurting any other buildings around it. They become professionals at doing that. You know, these people that spend months and months getting buildings ready to implode, they can do it with a couple hours planning. They just say, here's where we're going to hit it, and they, without destroying anything around them, down goes the building. Well, now what they have, instead of, you know, having citers and all that kind of stuff, they don't need that anymore. They've got remote robots that they can just send in. Listen to this. The IDF is utilizing airstrikes involving powerful missiles hitting the bases of high-rise buildings in order to collapse them. There it is, in their own footprint. But for other buildings and structures in tightly packed urban areas, there's increased reliance on explosive-laden robots, or something that might look like straight out of Terminator 2 and Skynet. Unprecedented number of explosive-laden remote-controlled vehicles are being prepared to invade Gaza City alongside the ground infantry troops. They've been able to cause mega blasts. And when I say mega, you see one of these, the video, it's really cool. These things, when they go off, there's a concussion that goes, all the buildings around it must lose all their windows. But they stand, okay? But that building that it's under, there ain't nothing left. It's great. So the ground infantry troops, the instances can be heard as far away as central Israel. That's a big blast with a long range. Palestinians have described the earth-shaking explosions. They are far more devastating than airstrikes. Gaza's government media office said over 100 of these have been used in the past month alone. Hundreds of residential units and small business buildings have been destroyed. The unprecedented pace of destruction of residential neighborhoods in Gaza City using explosive-laden robots indicates Israel's determination to wipe the city off the map. Well, I don't think that's what they want. I think they want to wipe the terrorists off the map or their dens. They never blow up a building unless they have told the surrounding people to leave. They don't just arbitrarily do this. If they blow it up with an airplane, they send in what's called a knocker. And they say, you've got 8 minutes to depart, and the people get out, and then they blow the building up, whatever. But they do this because they're storing weapons in there. They're firing from these buildings, etc. At the current rate, the rest of the city could be destroyed within 2 months, a timeline that may shorten further given Israel Army's massive firepower and the absence of any pressure to halt it. So they're moving right along. I saw this morning Trump has a proposal, and we'll see if it actually leads to a ceasefire or not. But we've had proposal after proposal, and Hamas at the very end always changes the parameters. And so it'll just continue, and they'll continue to have Gaza destroyed until they come to the table. From Breitbart, Israel's Iron Beam. I brought this up over the past 4 years now. The laser defense system is operational. They finally have it in operation. They were testing it, and I gave you that last report where they actually used it in the combat, but now it is fully operational. It intercepts missiles at near zero cost. That's the great thing about this. You build the unit, whatever it costs doesn't matter. Once you built a unit, all it takes is, it's like this air conditioner here probably takes a lot more power than one of these bringing down a missile or a drone. Rafael, in partnership with Israel's Ministry of Defense, confirmed completion of final development trials for the Iron Beam 450, demonstrating the ability to intercept rockets, mortars, and drones with unmatched speed, precision, and near zero cost per engagement. Achieving operational laser interception capability places Israel at the forefront of global military technology. This is not only a moment of national pride, but a major enhancement of our defense envelope, enabling rapid, precise interception at marginal cost. The system has been renamed Eitan, meaning Eitan's light, in memory of Captain Eitan Oster, a 22-year-old Egoz commando. He was killed fighting Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Oster's father is an engineer with the Defense Ministry's Research Division, contributed to this project, and so they named it after his son. The economic implications are stark. Each Iron Dome interceptor costs roughly $50,000. One missile, $50,000, and they send up, hundreds to defend themselves, while an Iron Beam laser shot costs about $5. This is crucial in Israel's multi-front war against Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran-backed militias in Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, where tens of thousands of projectiles have been fired. I don't know if you saw this week, there was a drone that came in from Yemen, and you can watch it fly right into a building. They were shooting at these guys for some reason. They just couldn't get this thing. And it wasn't going that fast. It was like an airplane flying in. But, you know, somebody's going to lose their job over that one, because that should never have happened. Raphael's tech uses adaptive optics to deliver a 100 kilowatt beam through a 450 millimeter aperture, neutralizing threats at the speed of light before they can reach Israeli airspace. The Iron Beam, built with its adaptive optics technology, will undoubtedly be a game-changing system with unprecedented impact on modern warfare. Defense sources emphasize that the system's speed of light engagement means Israelis may no longer need to run to shelters in most attacks. That's a great thing there, because in the past, it doesn't matter if they think they've got it or not. Those people run to the shelters. If they can actually, speed of light, take it out before it gets into Israel, they won't even have to have the sirens go off, as projectiles can be destroyed almost immediately after launch, often while still over enemy territory. The Iron Beam family includes the vehicle-mounted light beam, 10 kilowatt, the mobile Iron Beam M, 50 kilowatt, and the flagship Iron Beam 450 for maximum range interceptions. Field testing over the past year already saw smaller variants deflect scores of Hezbollah drones and rockets. From The Guardian, it's just frustrating. Bernie Sanders becomes the first U.S. senator to say Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. He's a Jew. I mean, you know, and just a bad human being. From the Times of Israel. Oh, you know what? I'm going to say something right now while before we even get halfway into this report. YouTube redid its policy. Okay, YouTube said that they did get manipulated by the Biden admin. They censored people even though it wasn't true. They took people offline that should not have been taken offline. I was hit with a ding, and if I got another one, they said I was going to lose my site. So I stopped putting the prophecy report on YouTube. They are going to restore all of the accounts that they took down, and they said they're not going to do this anymore. They're going to play fair. So I will now be posting the prophecy report again to YouTube. And for the first one, I'd like to say that I do not support and I do not believe in climate change. I believe that COVID-19 was a farce, and that we were duped, and big tech was involved in that as well. What else do I not like? That I could think of a whole litany of things, and if they come to mind during this report, I'm going to stop and I'm going to state my position, and we'll see if they actually stick with their guns. My guess is they're not going to. Climate change is fake, okay, fake news. The MSM is fake news. All of these things, if they come to mind, I'm just going to stop and I'm going to let you know. And we'll see if they stick to it. I'm going to test YouTube on this, because they did a lot of people a lot of damage. They harmed a lot of people's lives that were making revenue off of YouTube, and they did it for an agenda that was a complete lie. Okay, I've said that, and we'll go on. Times of Israel. UK bans Israelis from enrolling in prestigious defense academy from next year. The UK is not going to let Israel come up and play war with them anymore. Well, guess what? They probably do more to teach the UK than the UK would ever be able to lose by losing their students or gain or whatever. Times of Israel. Spain to quit 2026 Eurovision Song Contest if Israel participates. I've seen like 15 of those. I just picked that one. Oh, we're not going to be in Eurovision if Israel is. It's like a bunch of little babies, little crybabies up in Europe that, you know, I don't know why anybody watches that anyway. I've got a couple of friends from Israel. I won't say their name, but they watch it every year. They're wrapped, you know, Eurovision. I get nothing out of that. Okay, that kind of stuff I get nothing out of. I'm not into concerts and all that. I know people like football and Super Bowl, and none of that gets me. The only thing that really, really gets me outside of my wife, which is like number 3 on my list, this is Jesus is number 1. Just knowing Jesus. Knowing the Bible is number 2. After that comes family and friends. I got to tell you what, there's nothing more sweet than knowing Jesus. And I don't have time to watch football or Eurovision. But anyway, from Ynet, pressure mounting to oust. Netherlands says it will boycott Eurovision if Israel participates. Breitbart, anti-Israel public broadcasters threaten Eurovision boycott if Israel allowed to participate. I could go on and on and on with the people that have said they're not going to play if Israel's allowed to participate. Okay, it's like the Olympics, right? We always make these stands. We say this is supposed to unite the world, and then they are saying, I'm not going to go if this country goes. It defeats the whole purpose of why we have an Olympics in the first place, but I don't watch that stuff. So, got some news from Christianity today. Let's see here. Breitbart, Christians told to renounce Jesus or starve in the Sudan civil war. Anybody hear that anywhere? I mean, I can see CNN just clamoring over it. How terrible it is, right? According to Open Doors, at least 150,000 Christians have been killed in battles between Burhan Sudanese Armed Forces and Dagalo's Rapid Support Forces. Up to 15 million more have been driven from their homes, creating the world's largest displacement crisis. Not one word on any of the mainstream news. Not one, ever. They never mention this. Neither side is sympathetic to Christians, and the conflict has given Islamist extremists more opportunity to target them. Christians are also experiencing exceptional hardship in the hunger crisis because local communities discriminate against them and won't give them support. Much of the church in Sudan, which might have been able to help with aid distribution, is on the run. When even NGOs want to distribute food, the category of people who will receive this relief is controlled by the government. So government in these places doesn't give it to minorities. Often Christians here have been told, unless you leave your Christianity, no food for you, said the church leader, who asked for both his name and location to be withheld out of fear for his safety. Now, this is not a stretch what I'm going to say next, okay? That would have been America in 10 years if Kamala Harris had won, okay? They would have taken away all of our rights. This is proven. They've gone in and they found out the people they were targeting during the Biden administration, the things that they were setting up to get rid of us or to take away our rights, et cetera, et cetera. This isn't just conspiracy theory. These people want Christianity done in America. We need to be on our guard, and we need to continue to vote. And for Christians, I say it every time I bring up voting. For Christians that say, I'm not going to vote because that's a weak stand. You're a weak human being. I have no respect for you. If you will not vote, then as far as I'm concerned, you ought to just leave this country altogether. You're throwing away your heritage. Christian Post, Oklahoma Supreme Court blocks new social studies standards critics deride as Christian nationalist. The lawsuit maintained that the new standards violated the Open Meeting Act because the public was not given adequate notice that the new standards that would be adopted at a February 27th State Board of Education meeting would be drastically different than the ones approved at a December 2024 meeting. Additional claims in the complaint allege that the standards violate state laws requiring curriculum to be accurate and age appropriate. Age appropriate. We can teach little children about every deviant form of sex on the planet, but we can't teach them about Christian values. Now, I have to agree with this decision because they did not present it to the public as required by law. And we can't be held to a different standard than anybody else. They didn't do it, and so this should not become used in Oklahoma. I wish it had, and I wish they had done it properly, because the other issue about age standard violations and all that is nonsense, and they would have won that. However, they didn't win it because they followed the wrong procedures. As sad as I am to say that, I have to agree with it, because if the left did it, what would we do? We'd say, well, they didn't follow the procedures. And of course, then the courts would ignore it, but little different story there. Anyway, got some news from the Middle East and Africa today. From the Jerusalem Post, dozens of Mossad women penetrated Iran during the 12-day war. Mossad women. That's a gutsy person. I'm a lady, and I know what's going to happen to me if I get caught. And they went there anyway. Into Iran. They infiltrated the nation. Those are some gutsy folks. Mossad director, they can do this because they have all of the languages down perfectly. And a lot of these people came to Israel from those countries, and so they speak exactly native speaking. There's no, they don't get this nuance or that. They get it completely because that's where they came from. Okay, and this is all over the world. We got them from Russia. We got them from Ukraine. We got them from Iran. We got them. Jews came from Japan. They've come from all over this world to be back in the land of Israel. And they brought all of that cultural understanding and language skill back with them. So, good stuff. Mossad Director David Barnea vows the role that female Mossad agents played during the Israel-Iran war was very substantial. Barnea sent hundreds of Mossad agents or individuals being managed by agents into operations in Iran simultaneously. All of the varying groups of staff were highly coordinated. The spy chief directed a project that led to a diverse spectrum of agents, encompassing a wide range of operatives and their varied backgrounds, one could imagine. Collectively, the Mossad agents in Tehran targeted large numbers of radar platforms and ballistic missiles. Further, they provided targeting information to Israeli fighter jets for a broad range of other Iranian targets. The Mossad's opening shot was so stunningly effective that Iran was only able to counterstrike Israel on the second day of the war. In addition to new revelations about the critical role of women during the Iran operation, the spy network has a sufficient handle on the location of Iran's enriched uranium, which was not struck. So much so, in fact, that the agency could intervene if Tehran seemed to be trying to use that uranium to move again in the direction of manufacturing a nuclear weapon. They're way ahead of Iran even now. They know what's going on, and they know what they can attack anytime because of the intelligence that they gather by these really brave people. From World Israel News, Arab leaders secretly pleased to see Hamas destruction and Qatar humiliation. Okay, everybody's up in arms about Qatar getting bombed and how bad Israel is. Not really. Publicly, Arab leaders have condemned Israel's recent airstrike in Doha. Of course, they have to say that to the media. That targeted senior Hamas officials. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and others issued strong statements denouncing the attack as a violation of sovereignty and international law. However, behind closed doors, the regional response is more nuanced and, in some cases, quietly supportive. According to analysts, the strike exposed a deeper truth. Many Gulf leaders view Hamas as a destabilizing force and have grown frustrated with Qatar's role as its patron and mediator. While Qatar has positioned itself as a key broker in ceasefire talks, its support for Hamas has long been a source of tension with other Arab states, especially those aligned with the Abraham Accords. Thank you, Donald Trump, like the UAE and Bahrain. Privately, officials in Riyadh and Abu Dhabi are said to be relieved that Israel took decisive action against Hamas leadership, even if it meant breaching Qatari territory. The operation demonstrated Israel's reach and willingness to act unilaterally, reinforcing its deterrence posture in a region where Iran-backed proxies have long exploited safe havens. One Gulf commentator noted that there is no longer a capable force able to threaten Israel, underscoring the strategic recalibration that is underway. Many Arab countries see the weakening of Hamas and the sidelining of Doha's influence as a net gain for regional stability. You wouldn't hear this anywhere, but behind the closed doors, they've analyzed it and they know this is the case. These people are actually happy about it. Many have long been wary of Qatar's outsized influence, especially in regional politics, media, and diplomacy. Qatar is a small state with a population under 3 million, yet it punches far above its weight thanks to a combination of wealth, strategic alliance, and ideological positioning. The tension surrounding Qatar stems from a complex mix of ideological, political, and strategic factors that have long unsettled its Arab neighbors. One major source of friction is Qatar's support for radical Islamist movements such as the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas. While Qatar views these groups as legitimate political actors, countries like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE see them as existential threats to their regimes. Remember, Obama supported all those groups in trying to overthrow the Arab nations during the Arab Spring. Okay, they didn't appreciate that. It caused a lot of tension in America. Obama was, as I said in a recent prophecy update, he's the Satan of politics. He's still got those fingers in politics today, and it's not going to stop. He's going to continue. He speaks when he thinks it's opportune for him to do so, and the rest of the time he stands behind the curtain and he pulls strings on people. He's a wicked human being. They fear that Qatar's backing of political Islam could inspire domestic opposition and destabilize their internal order. Another point of contention is Qatar's funding of Al Jazeera, the extreme Islamic media powerhouse in the Arab world. During the Arab Spring, its covering was seen as fueling revolutionary fervor, which made many governments deeply uncomfortable and suspicious of Qatar's intentions. Okay, we have a base there. They have a little prestige because of that. They're more aligned with the Shiite way of thinking than the Sunni way of thinking, and it's caused a lot of trouble because they have this influence, and they're just a small little country, but they do not align with the thinking of the rest of the Arabs. So, you know, they're actually happy about what happened, and they probably all sent Israel a bunch of whatever, baklava or whatever they like over there, and said, thank you for doing that. Anyway, Zero Hedge, Israel wants permanent aerial corridor over Syria to strike Iran. If they're going to make a Syria pact, then they want this air corridor so they can go in anytime without asking other nations to interfere with their operations and just fly over it and take out Iran. Israel presented the Syrian government with a maximalist agreement that would establish a no-fly zone over Syria. Additionally, Tel Aviv wants a large swath of Syria from the Israeli border to Damascus to become a demilitarized zone. An Israeli source told the outlet that an essential part of the agreement will be maintaining the ability to use Syrian airspace to attack Iran. Israeli forces currently occupy southern Syria. Israel promised to withdraw its troops from Syria if Damascus accepted the agreement. Shara'a said a deal with Israel was possible in the coming days. They've been working on it. It got really close this week, a little back off yesterday, I believe, and we'll just see if it comes out. Mail Online, family of migrant. Okay, I don't know if you heard about the guy. He was here. He got mad at his landlord, and he cut off his head, and then he took it and he put it in the parking lot and was kicking around like a football. Okay, this is Islam in a nutshell, okay? But the family of the migrant who beheaded manager of Dallas hotel make chilling claim about his motive, saying he was treated like a slave. So that gives him the right to cut off another person's head in front of his wife and child and then take the head outside and kick it around in the parking lot. That's Islam. He treated me like a slave. Quit. Quit. Right? I mean, what does it take? You open the door and you say, see ya. Mongolia, NBC, Mail Online, posting that like it's acceptable. NBC, oldest and most complete fossil of a dome-headed dinosaur is found in Mongolia. This is great news. Very little is known about the Pachycephalosaurus, two-legged herbivores that lived in Asia and North America during the Cretaceous period and are among the most enigmatic dinosaurs, the study said. They have become an object of growing popular fascination thanks to their distinctive bony skulls, as well as appearances in media such as the Jurassic Park films. The purpose of the dome remains unclear, though scientists have suggested Pachycephalosauruses may have used them to butt heads in combat or to impress potential mates. So there you go. And these are really big. They're like really big dinosaurs. When I say big, I'm kidding. They're really small. Yeah. Okay. Daniel 12 Technology from DNYUZ. The new AirPods. These things you put in your ear, AirPods, you know, I don't wear that kind of stuff, but anyway, they can translate languages in your ears. Wow. Yeah. And now we've had this kind of technology, but it's now available where anybody can buy them. It's there, and you just $100 and some. And this week I saw an old friend, and he caught up with me on what he'd been up to over the summer. He and his girlfriend had visited family in Arizona. His niece dragged him to a screening of Lilo and Stitch. He was working at a new startup. He said, all of this in Spanish, a language I have never learned, but I followed every word. I understood him because I was wearing the new Apple earbuds. The $250 AirPods Pro 3 use AI to do real-time translations. as their most significant new feature. As my friend spoke, Apple's virtual assistant Siri acted as an interpreter, speaking in a robotic voice that immediately converted the Spanish words into English in my ears, that quickly. Later, I reviewed a transcript of the conversation produced on my iPhone to confirm the accuracy of the translation. Was it close? With the exception of a few mistakes where Siri mixed up pronouns, which probably was plugged in by a trans person, referring to my friend's girlfriend as he instead of she, it was solid. This was the strongest example I had seen of AI working in a seamless, practical way that could be beneficial for lots of people. Children of immigrants who prefer to speak their native tongue may have an easier time communicating. Travelers visiting foreign countries may better understand cab drivers, hotel staff, and airline employees. Okay, so you don't need to learn anything. You just put it in your ear and you can talk to all these people. It would also help me in my day-to-day life with understanding a contractor or pest control employee who doesn't speak English and is trying to explain what he found under my house. So there you go. That's kind of interesting. You get this information. But I was thinking about that. To me, it's almost a shame. And the reason why is because we will no longer have the desire to learn new languages. Because why bother? And so it's just like everything else AI is doing. It makes our life easier, and then we dumb down. I've given you a couple reports on that, the effects of that. And this is going to be another way of dumbing down. Instead of me, when I went to the Korean church, having to learn Korean, read Korean, and speak and listen to Korean, now I can just sit there with iPods or AirPods or whatever they're called and never have to learn it. Okay, we watch some Korean stuff, my wife and I, on TV, and it's bringing back that Korean that I once knew. And I like that. I don't use any of this kind of stuff because it's very enjoyable to just learn languages to increase your brain pan instead of shrinking it. Okay. MSN, Meta launches smart glasses with built-in display reaching for super intelligence. So now you have glasses that'll make you super intelligent. Well, actually, it'll be super intelligence, but you will be becoming super stupid. That's what's going to happen to us. We are going to reduce our desire to learn and to think cognitively because something is doing it for us. You wear those glasses, it's not going to help you. It will in the short term. In the long term, it is going to harm you. I'm not anti-AI, but it has a place, and it is not to be feeding you constant information. You need to learn to read and speak and think things through. From nature. Now, this is a good idea. Out of all of the things we've talked about with these information coming in, this is a great idea. From nature, AI is helping to decode animals' speech. Will it also let us talk with them? Well, there you go. I've never learned Dogginese, okay? And I've got 8 dogs, and I'd like to know what they want. Well, normally I do anyway, because they kind of let you know what the drooling and the, you know, that when they start peeing on the floor. Oh, that's what you meant. Okay, so there is a little bit of understanding Dogginese, but in this case, I would like to know in advance. You know, oh, you want chicken, not beef? Tough. Okay, I can talk to them. Okay. It's a dangerous world, including the inevitable plagues noted in the book of Revelation. From Zero Hedge, researchers found unvaccinated children are healthier than vaccinated. Didn't publish the findings. They never published their research. I wonder why. Okay, now I'm saying this. I wouldn't have even considered, I mean, I would have said it and then cut it out of YouTube, but now I'm going to post it again on YouTube. And we'll see what they do. This is not my article. I read articles right from the CDC during and after the COVID thing. I compiled them into one thing, all cited, had the sources, everything, and they blocked me. They said, we're going to take away your YouTube channel if you're given another ding. That's YouTube. That's your YouTube. And that's why I left there all these years ago. But now we'll post this again and we'll see what happens. I'll read it again just so that YouTube can get their filter and make sure they got it right the first time. Researchers found unvaccinated children healthier than vaccinated, but they didn't publish the findings. Henry Ford Health System, whose employees carried out the study, said it was deficient. Dr. Marcus Zervas, an infection disease specialist at the Henry Ford Health, and colleagues studied 18,468 children born between 2000 and 2016 who were enrolled in the health system's insurance plan, drawing data from medical, clinical, and payer records and supplementing with information from Michigan's immunization registry. After 10 years, 57% of the vaccinated children had chronic health conditions such as asthma, compared to 17% of the unvaccinated. Now that's a 40% difference. This study found that exposure to vaccination was independently associated with an overall 2.5-fold increase in the likelihood of developing a chronic health condition when compared to children unexposed to vaccination. This association was primarily driven by asthma, atopic disease, eczema, autoimmune disease, and neurodevelopmental disorders. This suggests that in certain children, exposure to vaccination may increase the likelihood of developing a chronic health condition, especially for one of these conditions. When it's 40 points higher, I'd say may ought to be struck from that last sentence, okay? But they didn't want to publish it because the study was deficient, even though they took 18,468 children and they monitored their entire life. They said, well, we can't publish this. It's deficient. Guardian, and that's because of the previous administration, which is exactly where we as Christians would be by now or within a couple months if that administration had won the previous election. That's where we would be today. New AI tool can predict a person's risk of more than 1,000 diseases, say experts. Now, this is a great thing for AI, okay? It's got more information than we can compile in 10 years, and they can do it in 10 seconds. That's good use for AI. The tool works by assessing the probability of whether and when someone may develop diseases such as cancer, diabetes, heart disease, respiratory disease, and many other disorders. Delphi 2M looks for medical events in a patient's history, such as when illnesses were diagnosed, together with lifestyle factors such as whether they are or were obese, smoked, or drank alcohol, plus their age and sex. I suspect everyone will be told to lose weight, and if you smoke, you will be told to stop smoking. And that will be in your data, so that advice isn't going to change remarkably. But for some diseases, I think there will be some very specific things. That's the future we want to create. Well, if all it comes up with is to lose weight and stop smoking, then it wasn't very helpful, because I've been hearing that forever, okay? Anyway, morality. Gateway Pundit. House Appropriations Committee unanimously passes amendment to defund all NIH-funded transgender animal experiments in fiscal year 26 spending bill. Animal. We want to convert this male dog to a female. We've been funding that in the United States of America. And so finally, the House Appropriations Committee said, well, we're not going to fund that anymore. Gateway Pundit. EU Commission forced to admit that COVID vaccines were given to the population. Oh, this can't be right. No. Without complete safety data. That can't be right. I'm sorry, we got to strike that article. From the Wall Street Journal, America loves cocaine. Mexico's new drug king cashes in. The Trump administration's war on fentanyl, which has really been decreasing because Trump has kept the borders from bringing it across, created an opening for El Señor Mencho to smuggle cocaine into the U.S. by the ton. Okay, so now we got to work on that. Zero Hedge. German state media have systematically slandered Charlie Kirk since his assassination. German state media, like they should even care about that. Instead of saying this American got shot and letting it go, they've been bashing him for 2 weeks. BBC. Texas law will allow residents to sue mail-order abortion pill providers. Good. You see what Newsom did? Newsom, within the past day or so, said that doctors in California no longer have to say who they are when they prescribe these mail-order abortion pills because we don't want the government to tell you what you can and can't do. So now imagine that. You can get abortion pills without ever having anybody identify who gave it. So if the person dies, there's no culpability, right? Some other news. Zero Hedge. Nuclear startup receives funding to bury its mini reactors a mile underground. This is cool news. Nuclear startup Deep Fission has received funding to bury its mini reactors a mile underground. The company has taken an unusual path to raise money, completing an alternative public offering that brought in $30 million at $3 per share, well below the $10 price typical of traditional IPOs. The company will retain its name and list shares on the OTCQB market, according to Interesting Engineering. This is a unique moment for the nuclear industry. Deep Fission has the right technology at the right time and in the right place. With this funding, we can begin building our pilot reactor with the goal of completion in 2026. They want to be able to have this working next year. Okay, the company aims to scale rapidly and profitably to address the massive energy demand from AI data centers and other customers worldwide. Deep Fission's design uses small cylindrical reactors lowered into mile-deep 30-inch boreholes. Each generates 15 megawatts, cooled by proven pressurized water systems. Burying the reactors in bedrock provides shielding, containment, and minimal surface footprint. The company says it can deliver power for 5 to 7 cents per kilowatt hour, using low-enriched uranium and off-the-shelf parts. By burying the reactors, the company hopes to solve several problems that plague current reactors, including concerns over meltdowns and potential terrorist attacks. The startup has already signed a deal with the data center developer Endeavor for 2 gigawatts of capacity and was selected for the Department of Energy's Reactor Pilot Program, which targets first criticality by July 4th of 2026. They're going to start burying nuclear reactors underground a mile below your feet to keep things going in the world. You know, I just got to trust that they know what they're doing, right? You know, I saw a YouTube video come up on my scroll a day ago, and it came up the next day. They always tempt you. When you go over it, they tempt you the next day. I saw it, and I didn't click on it because I have a pretty good idea. They said, how small can a nuclear bomb be made? In other words, you got the what do you call them, suitcase nukes, right? How small can they make? I was watching a DARPA specialist a couple years ago on one of these nuclear things, and they were talking about all these different nuclear bombs that they've developed. And they said, we can make them any size. He said, we developed a nuclear hand grenade. He said, but they didn't want to use it because blah, 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 blah. And I thought, that's amazing. They got a hand grenade that they can literally, a nuclear bomb, pull the pin, throw it, put your head down, and it's big enough to do whatever a hand grenade does in a nuclear form. So nuclear is kind of cool. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I like that kind of stuff.
You can throw that hand grenade far enough.
Yeah, that may have been the problem. You know, or what, you know, you're in a dark room and you kind of drop it and oops, you know, whatever. Or, you know, you're the guy that throws it in and then it comes out at you again, right? Okay, whatever. BBC. NASA bans Chinese nationals from working on its space programs. Chinese nationals who could only work at NASA as contractors or students contributing to research found out that they had lost all access to NASA's systems and facilities. Donald Trump, since the first moment he's been in office, has had one main mission. One. Everything else is circled around this one main mission, which is to limit China. Everything he's done. Okay? NASA then confirmed this, saying Chinese nationals would be restricted from using the agency's facilities, materials, and networks to ensure the security of our work. As they compete to gain a technological edge, Beijing and Washington have also grown increasingly wary of each other. The suspicion has made it harder for some Chinese students, especially those studying science and technology, to get visas or even enter the U.S. once they have secured a visa. Well, that was no problem until the communists were run out of office a couple months ago. From Yahoo, Trump executive order declared that NASA is now a spy agency. Used to be, you know, what is it, to boldly go where no man has gone before. It is now officially a spy agency. The order stipulates that the agency will now have as a primary function intelligence, counterintelligence, investigative, or national security work. Hence, we got rid of the Chinese in there. It's a major departure for the agency, which has historically focused on space exploration, as well as space and earth sciences over its 67-year lifespan. There are signs that Trump's intentions behind the order were at least partially related to labor concerns rather than spycraft, which is really smart on Trump's part. He always takes it around the side and he says, okay, you want labor boards? Well, then we're going to do this. It's now national security and you're out. He's a brilliant man, best guy in the world for this job at this time. The order also added NASA to the FSLMRS, excluding it from collective bargaining representative. There you go. No more of that there. The news that NASA will now be a spy agency was seemingly overshadowed in the media by the president's elimination of union rights for thousands of federal employees, despite multiple lawsuits challenging the change. The change of status outlined in the order will also affect other agencies and subdivisions of the government, including the International Trade Administration and the National Weather Service. Okay, we all know what's been going on for the past 80 years with the Democrats. We support the unions. The unions take their dues and they support the Democrats. And then it becomes a increasing glob of money going back and forth, funding a machine and keeping the other party out of power in all kinds of places. Trump understands these things. He's doing away with that. Trump's latest declaration comes at a turbulent time for NASA. The White House has already threatened to cut the agency's science budget in half for the next fiscal year, potentially putting dozens of major space missions on ice. Well, when you got one guy that is out there doing it for about 1/100th of the cost of NASA, that's probably a good idea. Trump's most recent reimagining of NASA also underlines the president's desire to militarize space and commitment and send boots to Moon and Mars. We were talking yesterday at the House, and I was told a quote by Musk, and I'm going to blow it, but he said something like, I want to die in Mars, just not getting there. Okay, something like that, you know, not on the landing or whatever. So he really wants to get to Mars. That doesn't interest me. I love Sarasota, Florida. Okay, Zero Hedge. Biden FBI targeted Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA. This is long before he was ever shot. They were targeting him. Senator Chuck Grassley revealed that whistleblower revelations showed that Joe Biden's FBI targeted not just Trump, but a, listen to this, wide swath of Republican organizations, including Charlie Kirk's TPUSA. According to Grassley, newly obtained records showed that the Arctic Frost probe was far broader than previously known. Some examples of the group that Wray and FBI sought to place under political investigation included the RNC, the Republican National Committee. You are targeting the opposite party in the United States of America under Biden. The RNC, the Republican Attorney Generals Association, like they're going to go out and blow up America or something, right? And various Trump political groups. The scope was staggering. In total, 92 Republican targets, including Republican groups and Republican-linked individuals, were placed under investigative scope of Arctic frost. In other words, Arctic frost wasn't just a case to politically investigate Trump. It was the vehicle by which partisan FBI agents and DOJ prosecutors could achieve their partisan ends and improperly investigate the entire Republican political apparatus. The exposed weaponization of the FBI is not just a matter for Washington insiders. It's a direct assault on the very foundation of our republic. Americans must demand full transparency and accountability before our institutions become irreparably politicized. This scandal isn't some partisan gripe. It's a glaring threat to the democratic process that affects every voter and every election ahead. Biden himself set the tone by labeling Trump supporters as enemies of the state. All of us, enemies of the state. That rhetoric, coupled with a weaponized FBI, created the toxic political climate that ultimately led to Kirk's assassination. Enemies of the state. I remember after J6 and they arrested a couple guys that were traveling home from Washington. And they said, you were at J6 and we're arresting you. You're a traitor to the nation. And he broke down in tears. He said, I love this nation. I've defended it my whole life. It just treated people like animals. Well, their comeuppance is here. It's called Donald Trump. Mail Online. Cape Cod rocked after judge releases. Now imagine this. This judge in Cape Cod, you know, I cannot feel bad for these people. I can't do it because they elected the judges in the first place. This judge releases smirking teen accused of plotting school shooting. Gave him tiny bail. I'm going to shoot up a school, and the judge let him out. Ian Fotheringham, 18. He's not a kid. He's an adult. Sat before the Barnstable District Court after he was accused of plotting a school shooting in Falmouth. Judge Kirsten A. Stone then ruled to release him from custody on a measly $2,500 bail with electronic monitoring. The teen, they keep calling him a teen, he's an adult, appeared unbothered by the ruling and is even said to have taunted the furious parents who were seated behind him. He turned around and laughed at us when he got his decision, parent Diana Wilson said, who was among parents wearing the school collar at the hearing. He doesn't care. He's not afraid of what's going to happen. We're afraid because those are our kids, those are our babies, and we can't go to school with them every single day. Falmouth police were alerted to the teen after a report alleged Fotheringham said he wanted to shoot up a school with no specification as to which school he would allegedly target and had been refurbishing firearms in his room. I'm going to do it, and he lets him out on bail anyway. That is the left in a nutshell. Fox News. Nearly 200 House Democrats vote against hiking criminal penalties for illegal immigrant felons. You're a felon here. We got you. We want to increase the penalties. And 200 Democrats said, we're not going to agree to that. Just 11 House Democrats voted in favor of the now passed legislation. And guess what? Those 11 Democrats probably are sitting on the border as to whether they'll be reelected or not. Or they would have just caved in on it too. CNBC. Ram cancel. You know what? I got something else to say for YouTube. Democrats are bad people at this point. I just believe that. I don't believe that you're... You know, if you haven't thought through what you are voting for, that's bad all by itself. Yep. CNBC. Ram cancels plans for all-electric pickup truck. Finally, guess why? The tax credit is ending. They just funneled money from the U.S. government to pay for nonsense, and now it's not worth anything. It's not worth anything. And so what did they do? They say, okay, we're done with that. Gateway Pundit. Ireland's Prime Minister declares Ireland for the Irish is an incitement to violence. America's for Americans. Oh, you're a hater. Just get your legal immigration and come over the border. I know people all over in my life that have done exactly that. We got several in the church here. They came from other countries. They applied. They waited. They did what they were supposed to, and then they came. That's an easy process. Mail Online. Kim Jong-un orders North Koreans caught watching foreign films to be executed. Fox. Dominican Republic seizes cocaine from boat destroyed by the U.S. Not a word from the media. For almost 2 weeks, the media said there's no proof that they had drugs on those boats. No proof, no proof, no proof. And they kept slamming Donald Trump. And all of a sudden, the Dominican Republic says, we got the boat and it's filled with drugs. Not a word. Breitbart. Google admits political censorship on YouTube, promises to embrace free speech. Okay, we'll embrace this. Climate change is a lie. COVID was deception. Okay, there you go. We'll see if they do it. You know, who knows? Mail Online. Don't eat at this restaurant. Okay, this is KFFO Afro Steakhouse in Houston. If you go to Houston, don't go to KFFO Afro Steakhouse. Okay? Diner collapses while eating at steak restaurant. Staff dumped his body outside to die instead of calling 911. Yeah. Jesse Mobley Jr. died at KFFO Afro Steakhouse in Houston, but he never made it out alive. Mobley ate a meal at the restaurant known for its West African cuisine before suddenly passing out at the table. Staff then picked the man up, who was believed homeless, and placed him and his belongings outside a local beauty school, according to police records. The workers did not call the police at all to report the incident. It wasn't until the following morning that Mobley's lifeless body was discovered by Andrea Arbelas Sarazola, a beauty school attendant who was left terrified when she saw him collapsed against a wall. A puzzled Sarazola wasn't quite sure what to do, but when she saw the ants had crawled on Mobley's ears and one side of his body was purple, she immediately called for help. Don't eat at KFFO Afro Steakhouse in Houston. Okay, who said it? The Lord can give, and the Lord can take away. I might be herding sheep next year. I didn't do it very well. Elvis. Yeah. Elvis. I would have sung his song, but you'd all cry and leave, so I don't want that. Okay. Got a Catholic here for you. Les's mother was very sick, and so he was taking care of her this week, so she did the Catholic. The Tower of Babel no longer applies. Translations come through by AI. Need to know what was said? It goes right to your head. I think they have hit a bullseye. Okay, I got an irony, and then we'll be done. Let's see here. Music star whose lyrics glorified cartel leaders is gunned down. Such is the world in which we live. So from Sarasota, Florida to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, I'm Charlie Garrett, and that is your CG Prophecy Report for the week.